India is very, very close to the way maybe Eastern Africa operates, and the resemblance is very, very powerful. They are also heavily digital by nature, and you will hear about it. I somehow feel that a lot of fintechs in India, when they step out, they don't look at that market very, very accurately. I think we wanted to explore Eastern Africa specifically with Jimmie, and I'm really, really happy that he came across to sort of take this session. It is for opportunity for all fintechs who are trying to think of moving outside India, where should they go, and the port of call is where we are talking about, and he will talk about what transformation is doing. So thank you, Jimmie, for coming across.
Thank you very much, Samir. And guests, my name is Jimmie Mwangi. I'm the Chief Information and Digital Officer at Diamond Trust Bank. So Diamond Trust Bank is one of the major banks in Kenya, Tier 1. We have 9 Tier 1 banks, with DTB being one of them. So as Amir has just introduced, we will go through a journey of digitization in East Africa, how we are supporting fintechs, and of course what we have done, and the journey we have gone on the digitization front. So, do you have the control? Okay, good, perfect. Okay, so maybe to start with, let's look at East Africa. And this is not a use case, it's a practical journey in terms of where we are, as I said. Looking at the countries that form East Africa, if you look at the population, the total population in East Africa only is 480 million. That's 500 million people. Covering those countries, and I've added DRC, which is a recent addition to the East African community. If you look at the countries I have put in red, these are the areas that as DTB, we have presence. A lot of Tier 1 banks in Kenya are very dominant in the region as well, where you find the leading bank, KCB, Equity Bank, in more than 6 or 7 countries around the region. So we had a lot about trust, I think yesterday and today. And one thing in the region is that trust is a currency. Yesterday, one speaker said that trust is earned, but growth is hired. And with that, we are leaving this because we have seen the digital technologies, what they can do, the mega adoption, and of course, the growth as well. So with this number, I think going down to how are we digitizing? We are not digitizing, we are reimagining the whole banking. And basically this is driven by one thing, the adoption of mobile money. So mobile services, as most of you might know about M-Pesa, Airtel Money, very dominant, especially M-Pesa, that introduced digital even before banks did. A lot of the population in the region actually started using call it banking, started moving money with the mobile services, even before accounts came to be. But if you look at the trends, this is where it becomes even more interesting. Youthful population, you can see a country like Uganda has a median age of 17 years, only 17 years. And you can see the others as well following very closely. And with almost half this population being under 15 years. And this is just to show you the kind of population and the digital adoption, as you can see, very high mobile penetration, strong fintech and telco DNA. Of course, right now, as we will see, we are doing a lot of collaboration between banking and telco, especially in moving money from bank to telco and telco to banking as well. Then, of course, very large underserved market, especially when we bring DRC in picture. A country like Ethiopia, for example, every single month is adding 2 million subscribers to the GSM network. A country like DRC, still very, a lot of people still are unreached when it comes to telco coverage. In Kenya, again, going to a statement made by Sohini yesterday, she said that we have to solve, first of all, the problem of reach. But that's not the end. It's a means to the end. So what is the end? The end in this case is actually building depth, is making sure that all these technologies can actually transform lives. And that's the journey Kenya has gone through specifically. Looking at innovation, this is a region that is very much led by solving a problem. Again, you cannot copy-paste, understanding the problems in the local market and designing to scale. A very good example on this is M-Pesa, Safaricom, which came to solve a problem of moving money. Initially, before Safaricom, of course, there was a big challenge on people who work in the city and want to send money up country. And it came and solved exactly that, because every GSM SIM card you have is a wallet. And in that way, then moving money became so easy. Right now, M-Pesa, you use it for paying bills, whether it's merchants, buying goods, or even transfers peer-to-peer as well. And then there is now the other problem. After this adoption of mobile money, where does this leave us as banks and leave us as fintechs as well, as we discussed on the fintech side? So very much we have turned to do more orchestration. And what the banks are doing is very much supporting ecosystems, downstream, upstream, and of course, moving money, innovation with fintechs, and with telcos as well. Branch banking is one thing that still spreading. We are still expanding branches, but transactions have moved to mobile. So if you look at volume, I think over the last 5 years, after COVID, a lot of growth, even on value, has moved to mobile. So meaning, branches, we are doing more for corporate and businesses, as retail moves more and more to digital and to mobile. So in that aspect, you'll find a farmer who does everything on mobile phone. So starting from being paid, that's where they receive their money, their payroll. When they want to order, they use an agri-tech platform to actually order and pay, you know, when it comes to payments, when it comes to lending, and all that. So one thing with the branches, that will remain, but we have also gone through the journey of digitization. Now, let's look at DTB and the journey of digital, as we mentioned. So first, we looked at our entire ecosystem, and we said, what exactly do customers come to do in the bank? And clearly, and I think that has been part of the conversations we have had, we looked at onboarding of customers, looked at friction in our processes, looked at, do we do self-onboarding? How do we achieve self-onboarding using the modern technologies? And then after that, how do we facilitate transactions? Remember what you're saying, that banking moved more and more into the digital space, into the mobile banking. And then we're looking at engaging. So I have engaged here with a lot of tech providers, and we are still using a lot of services from India. And maybe to mention, Kenya and India come a long way. I think that journey started around before 1900, to be specific. And we still keep on engaging. We have a lot of tech providers. I've met some of my tech providers here as well. Now, on engagement, we're looking at things like AI, hyper-personalization, CRMs, modified journeys, and making it easy for customers as well. Then we went to channels, and we started looking at the channels we have. So remember what I was saying about M-Pesa, and what I was saying about the technologies not being fancy, but being technology that addresses the need of the population. One of the biggest or most popular channels is STK push. I don't know that you have STK push in India? You do? Oh, not now. So STK push has become very popular, again, driven from the telco side, whereby when you're making a payment, you get a prompt, put your PIN, paid. So that's why you see STK. We have mobile apps, of course, SME apps as well. And this is to support, I think yesterday there was a comment made that India has a very huge population of SMEs. They form a very big part of the GDP. And the same, exactly the same can be said of Kenya and the region as well. Then, of course, we have the other channels. And these, including agency, I think maybe I can mention on agency, which is very, very quickly becoming an interface of between banks and customers, a human interface without the normal APIs we have been discussing. So that also, we're now looking at systems that can digitize the process from the agency side, so that as you engage with the bank, whether it's through USSD, whether it's through apps, then that journey is also streamlined as well. And then going to the product, and this is where a lot of fintechs come in. So DTB is known for supporting fintechs, working with fintechs. We have built platforms that support fintechs in offering multiple services, which we'll see. And with this platform, we are extending especially the move and borrow, that's moving money payments, and also the credit, and expanding now to cover savings, investments, and insurance as well, which we are embedding in the journeys, and hence the need to embed payments in agri-platforms, which we have done, and lending, as we add the others as well in this ecosystem. Then, of course, we have segmentation. Again, on our digital journey, we looked into this, and we saw there is a need not only to digitize retail, which, as I mentioned, has been very digitized from the telco side, but also going all the way to the corporates. So again, I have partnered with some tech providers from India in most of these segments, and especially the corporate where we are digitizing credit, digitizing insurance as well. That is, again, embedding. But if I go down and where we come from in terms of ICT and cybersecurity, so I took over the role of CIDO in DTB 2 years ago. And within the 2 years, we have made a very tremendous journey when it comes to, of course, the ICT, enterprise IT, and the cybersecurity, where I think, again, the previous speaker talked about cyber and why this is necessary as we digitize. So we went through a journey, we call it the Everest program. And what this was doing is to create zero trust, basically, applying zero trust architecture. Then we looked at other support functions, again, some part of digitization. But let's look at how do we support these fintechs. As a bank, what we've done, and I'll go very quickly on the platforms, we have built platforms that address the niche industries. So, for example, the first one you see is called Astra. Astra is our offering for fintechs. And what this system does, it enables us, it helped us a lot in modernizing our architecture. It helped us a lot in creating wallets on top of core banking. And this system only works with fintechs, connecting through to core banking for the store of value. It helps us in providing most of the services, actually all the services you see on top, and the two on bottom as well, apart from IPF. And this is through APIs, connecting through to fintechs, and enabling us to provide a business to consumer service. So that means fintechs connecting through to us. We have sandboxes. We take them through the process of registration with Central Bank of Kenya, in Kenya that is. And once we get that done, then you can actually go live, and we support you, your customers on the transaction, on your platform, where they can create wallets, which we shadow in our platform that is connected through to core banking as well. KYC as a service. Again, this is one area we have come quite a long way. In KYC as a service, we are now able to do all the KYC checks, integrating to different systems. We do not have platforms as mature as India has. That's one thing. And as we look at the digital public infrastructure, as we look at Aadhaar, for example, Kenya has IPRS. It's government, repository of IDs. We do verification there. Issue is depth and also availability. Something I have seen in terms of Aadhaar, how the effort has been to even do those micro verifications on need-to-need basis, which I think is a lot of learning that East Africa and Africa at large has from India. Payments and collections is another area we are doing very well with the different tech-enabled organizations, and of course, card as a service on Astra as enabling fintechs to issue cards, virtual cards mostly, prepaid debit cards, to their different consumers. Then we have wallet as a service, I think I talked about this, is us simulating an account, but enabling you as a fintech to actually enable your customers to do banking on your platform. So digital IPF, very new, we added that recently. And we are working with different insurance companies where we are able to extend or to deploy our balance sheet and be able to issue lending or loans to people who are buying premium insurance. I think on this front, one of the areas that I'm under a lot of pressure to actually finalize is going to micro insurances, so that the insurance wants to issue small, tiny little loans, just like you can see the transformation has happened on the movement of money. And that's what we are currently working on. If I mention on IATA, the one you see at the bottom, this is another journey DTB has gone through. We were recently asked to digitize tea trading associations processes in Mombasa, which is the largest tea trading auction in the world. And what we did with this is very much to create a platform that we build internally, now looking at ways to add more modern technologies on it, which digitizes the whole process, including the settlements for the tea that has been traded in the auction, whether it's in Kenya or outside, whereby we do transfers, SWIFT, RTGS, and all that. We still don't have UPI. It's another learning that CBK has taken from India, and a lot of work is ongoing, looking at the payment framework as well. Yeah, so I think that very important, e-dairy and agribusiness. Again, Kenya very big in agriculture, as digitizing these organizations like cooperatives, and trying to issue loans on their platform once again, which hits the bank. We are able to disburse the loan and then, of course, manage the collections afterwards. So API banking, very huge and still growing. We are taking leadership, as I mentioned, in the market, but a lot of opportunities still exist in terms of digitizing and issuing the services. So what is our true north? After talking about what we've done with fintechs, with tech-enabled companies, and of course looking at what we've done as a bank to our own customers, our true north still remains depth, reaching to customers. As I said, we have now covered and we have been able to address the issue of reach. But when you look at depth, are we issuing working capital? Are we able to help a farmer get post-harvest or pre-harvest loan? And that is basically where we are going with the two, using data, using AI for scoring, and of course, reducing collateral base as much as possible, especially for working capital. Building ecosystems and all that. Then insurance, mentioned about microservices, embedding insurance on transactions. For example, a farmer is paying to an ecosystem. As they buy on our platform, they are able to choose, am I going to pay in cash? Do I need a loan, or do I need a partial loan? And with that, when that now payment happens, when you're doing this payment, I can also say, I want to insure the goods load for load, just as I get the delivery. Then, of course, getting to the savings part. This becoming very much automated, whether it's goal-based, whether it's off transactions, and enabling our customers and the fintech customers to actually save as they transact. And then, of course, investments. It's another area we are focusing a lot, currently working with a fintech to digitize the investment portfolio for the bank as well. Remember I said we are in 3 countries now after moving away from Burundi. Okay, maybe mentioning on fintechs and this ecosystem. So Kenya, in terms of status quo, Kenya still remains the most popular when it comes to fintechs in the region. It only comes third after South Africa and Nigeria. And as you can see, 15% of all fintechs in Africa are actually found in Kenya, which is, of course, in East Africa. And with that, it has helped us a lot in terms of relooking at our journeys. You can see we have moved from superficial, just digitizing channels, to understanding the end-to-end customer needs. And, of course, now that resulting in transformation. And what is the catalyst? Is the population. Very young population, digital savvy, very easy on mobile. They do almost every transaction on mobile. So that, has, as I said, has moved from banking more into the mobile space. And what is the solution? So as I mentioned about collaboration with fintechs, we are looking at the Indian tech landscape being very much an enabler for us to continue scaling, because not only Kenya, which I'm mentioning, 96% already have GSM coverage, but if you look at DRC, if you look at Ethiopia, I mentioned about 2 million additions each and every month to the GSM. So definitely still a lot of work around infrastructure. And I think one of the most critical takeaways from my meeting here is actually looking at the platform India has created and its ability to actually drive digitization across. So very much that's 15% regional share, and of course the resilience. This data is from Fintech Association of Kenya, and what they're saying from 2024, even with the difficulties in funding, Kenya still, fintech still saw an increase in funding, even with, despite of those global headwinds. And there is a lot of growth as well, because you can see digital payments projected to grow up to 15 billion USD in 2028. And remember what we said, Kenya being East Africa being 500 million people in population, and Africa being 1.5 billion as a whole, Africa is the youngest population still in the world, younger than India. So again, you can tell in terms of long-term and the kind of interventions we need, the platforms we need to build to equip that future. I think if I'm not wrong, by 2100, it's projected that Africa will have 4 billion people. Again, telling you what kind of population and growth we're expecting. Looking at ecosystem value, 3.5 billion is associated to fintechs just in Kenya at the moment. So clearly, Kenya is not a test bed, and is now a very mature, mobile-first population. And with that, of course, growing payments, lending, and exploring more and more on the agent network for the areas that are not covered. As I mentioned, having worked in another bank before DTB, I was very present in DRC. I think it's one of the fastest growing, still very underserved, and with a lot of potential when it comes to digital services. Then beyond M-Pesa, which is what we know most when we talk of fintechs in Kenya, so payments and wallets, which we have touched on, then of course digital lending as enabling organizations to borrow and also customers to borrow, whether it's through fintechs, directly, pay now, buy now, pay later, and microloans as well. Building the platforms to enable this, whether it's ecosystem lending like what we saw yesterday, supporting those anchors, retailers, distributors, and enabling them to not just pay, but to get credit for working capital, and also be able to ensure the good, as I mentioned, on a load by load. Then embedding finance on this journey for banking as a service, and us offering it as APIs. As I mentioned, we have sandboxes, working with the CBK, that's the regulator in Kenya, to get the fintechs approved, and immediately after that, you can start transacting. So you can reach us if you are fintech wanting to come into the region. That one we can handhold and make sure you start transacting. Then wealth and capital. This is an area that is seeing a lot of growth. We launched Prestige Banking, by the way, recently, which again is very much driving us to look at the digitization of the wealth and capital as well. Then what is the unfinished journey? This slide covers a lot of what we have discussed here, and a lot of speakers have gone through it. Yes, we have been very fast, as I mentioned, very quick as a country, as a region, to digitize the journeys for customers, make access become so easy. But behind the hood, there are these issues that still exist. One of them, of course, being operations. We still have a lot of manual processes. It's an area I have been engaging Digital Fifth on, looking at the digitization of the back end. Looking at credit processing, whether it's legacy systems, legacy processes, legacy culture, all those still affect how fast do we respond, and especially as a bank. Remember, telcos would get to respond very quickly on that mobile-first platform. Then, of course, onboarding of SMEs and corporates. We have mastered the eKYC for individuals. For businesses, it's only now that we are integrating to government, trying to digitize that journey, which is still not very mature as we speak. So a lot of other challenges remain. Data monetization. We are also having the same issues with Data Protection Act. Consent as well. I think another area I have learned a lot from India is also the consent frameworks, which we still require to have in the region as well. There is that push, as you can see, for open banking. CBK, Central Bank of Kenya, wants to have open banking by the end of 2026, which is forcing banks to look again at our architecture, business architecture, technical architecture, and its preparedness to support open banking as well. And of course, the framework for those payment services also driving the same need for introspection and looking at our environment. So we've talked a lot about success in India and success in Kenya. And what we're now saying is it should be the end of parallel successes. And the collaboration we need between the two countries, of course, borrowing a lot from what India, the journey India has gone through, without reinventing the wheel, building the platforms and working together in opening those interoperable rails, creating a proper infrastructure for human identification, and then, of course, looking at the Indian style of digital ID, and those concept architectures that India has created. Then looking at SME financing. This, because of the growth in SME, if you look up on Kenya GDP, you will see over 40% is associated with SMEs. So financing them, because they are rich, and I think I picked the same challenges from the previous speakers, financing them, making it easy, and of course, easy to access loans, and easy to drive their growth, is something that we still need a lot of partnerships and collaborations. And of course, core modernization, going to the technical enterprise IT, building microservice-based architectures, updating middleware to expose secure APIs and all that to local fintechs in the region as well. So Africa is ready for business. Are you? And this is basically just summarizing on the areas of collaboration, where it's possible to collaborate, what India brings, a very heavy digital public infrastructure investment, and of course Kenya having a mobile money leadership that is global, inclusion experience, and also fast-moving ecosystem. I think on that side, I don't have to go through all of them, but what you can see is the opportunities we have at both technology and fintech access level. So, and that's it for me today. And I hope that was good. We'll engage more, definitely. I've engaged some of you, and I'm looking to engage maybe until the end of today. Thank you very much, and much appreciated.
And just want to tell you that he has flown in only for this session. I think we have a person from, yeah. Oh, sir. Okay, I got emotional. I was just talking along with you, right? Oh, okay. Okay, come. Okay. So I just want to set the context a bit more. Maybe we'll do a photograph and then we'll talk. Okay, thank you.